This morning, we have a new episode of STEM City.
Yeah, joining us to talk more about it is our STEM City host, Dr. Durrani. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
What do you have going on this week?
NASCAR. I was always a NASCAR fan growing up, watched it religiously every Sunday. So when the opportunity came to make an episode about STEM and NASCAR, I jumped at it.
Okay.
And my favorite thing about this episode was we talk about, inspiring kids and whatnot. Well, they actually had Boys and Girls Club kids at the track. We got to follow them along, see all the behind the scenes things they did, got to chat with some of them, and just how inspiring and how happy they were with that experience was energizing for me to see.
Did you travel for this assignment?
Yes, I went up to Austin. So they have a race in Austin and Dallas, so I had to go to one of those.
Of course.
Yeah, went to Austin. It was a quick trip, but totally worth it.
Okay, let's take a look.
Welcome to STEM City NASCAR Edition. We decided to drive up the road to Austin, Texas to the Echo Park Grand Prix and see what NASCAR is doing with STEM and some of the STEM professionals that make NASCAR the sport that it is. Well, John, thanks so much for joining us on STEM City. You are the Chief Racing Development Officer at NASCAR. What does that mean?
It means a lot of things depending on what day it is, I think, but largely it's the position responsible for all of the rules, all of the car design, development, safety side of it, and even things such as track security and the medical staff that are here to support our drivers and our fans on our race weekend.
Yeah, so a lot of responsibility. It seems like it's a broad array of things you cover. Kind of rewinding, what did you study in college? Where did you go to college, and how did you end up here?
Yeah, rewind probably almost 30 years now. Been around for a long time. Started at a small school in Pennsylvania called Bloomsburg University doing a physics degree. Transferred to Penn State 3 years into that to be a mechanical engineering student, and actually graduated 5 years later with a degree in physics and mechanical engineering. Graduating out of Penn State, a lot of the automakers would come to the college and recruit, and interviewed with Ford in November of '93, which was the kind of right before the final semester of my senior year, and was fortunate enough to get an offer from Ford, and spent at that point in my mind, I couldn't ever foresee moving because that was sort of my dream job right out of college. And started with them in August of 1994, and haven't looked back.
Nice. And when did you realize that racing was maybe a passion or something you wanted to be around, and how did you make that transition?
Got to go to a lot of races with my father, and followed it more as a fan at the time. Followed a lot of Formula One actually in the late 80s when McLaren was dominating, and just had sort of a natural affinity towards the technology that was in the race cars, but had never really thought up until that time that it was realistic to even think that I could use math and science and things like that and make a living out of it doing that, because it felt like something I watched on TV. It seemed like more for fun than for a job. And then my senior year at Penn State, we were hanging out with a bunch of other mechanical engineers, and we got this flyer from the Society of Automotive Engineers about a project called Formula SAE, which is where different schools build almost Formula One style little miniature Formula One cars and compete against one another. We went out and did that, did pretty well, and from that point on, I was like, when I got to Ford, be part of a Ford college graduate program where they let you kind of rotate around the entire company almost. You can pick where you want to go for 6-month rotations, and I saw this racing on there, and I thought, boy, this would be a great opportunity to just sort of continue on, what we started there at Penn State. That eventually led to spending 3.5 years getting able to work with Jackie Stewart and the Formula One team that Ford had there. So kind of just parlayed that whole college Formula SAE, getting hired at Ford, where, obviously it's a great company where there's all kinds of jobs inside of there, but when you really enjoy something and you have a lot of passion for it and you're willing to make it sort of your lifestyle, then you can be successful people. And that's just, you know, as you go on past forward and into my other positions before I came to NASCAR, it's all the same thing.
Yeah, that's super cool how those early experiences in college kind of led you down this path.
Yeah.
And then also a lot of people, all of us, are scared sometimes of making that leap into others telling you, hey, don't do this. But you did that and it all worked out.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. And I tell my kids this, if you're doing something that you love, and like I said, you're willing to make it your lifestyle and not a 9-to-5, you know, Monday through Friday, the sky's the limit. I used to at one point say, you know, what am I going to do when I grow up and I don't do this racing thing?
Yeah.
You know, I'm 53 now, so I'm pretty much grown up, and racing is probably what I'm going to do until I don't work anymore.
I wish we had enough time to talk about all of your responsibilities, but let's focus on the technology. I'm like a big nerd about technology, and kind of off camera we were talking about some of the health kind of monitors that drivers wear and whatnot. Tell me about that one more time, because I didn't quite grasp it the first time. Yeah.
So obviously in racing, it's a dangerous sport.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, you know, we can lose sight of that, you know, as we get out and we're having fun. But, you know, every once in a while, every couple years, we have a pretty significant incident, and then it becomes real again very quick. I would say, you know, the R&D center at NASCAR is about a 60,000 square foot building where we have 30 engineers that work nonstop, a lot of them on safety. We have programs there that range from simple cameras that are in the car, high-speed cameras, to every car sort of has a black box like an airplane does. So every car that we have on track, be it a Cup, a truck, or Xfinity car, has this black box on it that our engineers back at the R&D center under Dr. John Padillac's guidance will recreate a lot of our bigger incidents so that we can learn from that. Even when we don't have accidents, we have programs like mouthpiece sensors, which are a way for us to monitor what the driver is feeling during a race. Not so much an accident, although obviously it works in an accident, but for a track like, you know, COTA, where we're at here today, you know, there's a lot of curbs that they'll hit, they'll bounce around, the car will get airborne, it'll land hard, and our goal is to constantly work with our modeling to take the data from our drivers themselves as they're going around the racetrack, and then model that, replicate what the car's doing today, put some fixes in that we think could help it, you know, be it softer head foam or different restraint systems, and then evaluate them in the computer to see if in fact that's moving the needle in the right direction.
Tell me about the role STEM play and STEM backgrounds play in NASCAR and in terms of moving NASCAR forward. If there's a, you know, kid thinking about going into physics or engineering or math, like, you know, could they be a part of moving the sport forward? It seems like the answer is yes, but I want you to talk about
obviously when you're around an engineering group, STEM is something that we've all come from.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us now that look back and want to say, okay, who's the next generation and the generation after that coming in to fill our roles? And we support it wholeheartedly. Our folks obviously come from STEM backgrounds, but are actively now trying to support the younger kids coming up through even kindergarten nowadays. We try to create pretty good programs for our local kids, and you know, when we get the opportunity, take that out and take it to some of the cities that we race in.
Yeah, so awesome. We'll be shadowing Boys and Girls Club kids later on today who are going to be engaging in some of those STEM programs. So just really, you know, from my perspective, really awesome to see NASCAR, that something is seen as like really cool, really, you know, all kids are into, really engaging them on the STEM side of things, and your story is awesome as well. Thanks so much for spending some time with us on a busy morning.
Thank you, appreciate it.
How old are you?
12 years old.
Nice, nice. What do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be out on the track, driving, you know, just having fun out there.
Nice. We're in the perfect space for this. This is a NASCAR race. Do you have a favorite driver?
Chase Elliott.
Nice. What are some of the things that you guys have gone to do today?
We went to go check out like the medical center and check out like a few of the cars while we were coming over here. You guys are at NASCAR today. What brings you all here and what brings the kids here?
We came here today, I guess, to, you know, kind of get a different outlook on like certain things, you know, like the kids, a lot of them never been to races, they've never even experienced something like this, so we just came out here to give them a different type of experience and a look into different type of careers that they could have.
Yeah. And from what I've seen, they seem super excited. They're having a ton of fun. What does it feel like to see them kind of in that environment? And
I absolutely love it, especially when they get to open their eyes and see like different types of things. Like I feel like this is a big opportunity for them just to see what the people do as far as like the pit crews and as far as the drivers. I mean, everything that goes into it, the media team, all of this stuff. It's a job out here for all of them, and I feel like it's good for them to see something like this because it just gives them more exposure to what's out there in the real world.
3, 2, 1, woo!
Awesome, Dr. Cooper. I'm super excited to chat with you. You head up STEM and sustainability here at NASCAR. Like every human, I'm passionate about various things, and it's really exciting when you see something you're passionate about really standing up for STEM and taking that as something serious. So tell me why that is in the setting of NASCAR. Why are you guys taking STEM so seriously?
Well, first and foremost, STEM is such a big part of everything we do here at NASCAR. It bleeds into so many areas that make up NASCAR, so it puts it at a higher priority in terms of importance for us. And then also we are always thinking about how we can improve things, how we can be more innovative and creative. And then that helps to improve the fan experience because they want to see a more competitive side from the drivers, and then it motivates them to want to watch even the more. So just thinking about those three things, I think that's why we're so passionate. And then lastly, I would also add, there's always that education piece where we're educating fans, educating our partners, and then just the general public on promoting STEM.
Yeah, I see NASCAR and racing as like the ultimate science lab, right? So many things happening, technology, humans, diverse teams and whatnot. And the cool thing is you guys bring students to the track, which y'all are doing today. What is the reception from that perspective been like? How do students react to being talked to about STEM when they show up to the track?
Well, it's definitely been positive. They're so excited to want to come here. And then when they see STEM in action, where they get that real world hands-on experience and then they see STEM being applied, it really changes their perception. And then they see possibilities, like it broadens all of the ideas that they think that they could do, and then careers that they think that they could have.
When we're young, we all want to be the NASCAR driver or the professional basketball player, and that doesn't happen for most of us, and that's okay. But you can still work in those sports and be an integral part to moving them forward. What's like one or two career paths you could take that are based in STEM that could lead you into NASCAR?
Sure. I think the first big one would be engineering, and there are different aspects of engineering that a student or a kid could go into. There's also data analytics. A lot of what drives NASCAR is the data, and so getting into data analytics, and then a little bit of graphic design, and then just pushing into technology even more with game simulations. I think those would be the biggest ones.
So tell me a little bit more about your role, or what do your responsibilities include, and what's on your plate right now?
Sure. So for me, it's a lot of observations, gathering data, there goes the data analysis there, and really making informed decisions as to how we want to be really thoughtful. And I think that's the key here with NASCAR. We really want to be thoughtful and add some longevity and purpose in what we do with STEM. As I mentioned earlier, STEM is infused in everything that we do, and because of that, we want to make sure that students are getting the best opportunity and exposure to STEM so that they can then, they would want to pursue this and see that it's a possibility. So really putting curriculum together, working with the different partners that are associated with NASCAR that are also passionate about STEM, and coming together and really putting a program and initiatives that will push STEM education and make it possible for kids. That's super awesome. I can't wait to see the exciting things you guys do and inspiring tons and tons of kids. For sure. That's really awesome to see. This is like a really cool space we're in. This is called a hauler. Tell me what that means and what this is used for.
Well, this is probably our mobile office, pretty much. Okay. Right? So every weekend when we go to the track, this is where we will work from.
Okay.
All all the teams have something very similar. So basically what you have in here, you have your cars on the top, that's where your cars travel.
Okay.
And down here you have pretty much all the spare parts that you need.
Okay.
In the past, you were pretty much traveling with everything, right?
Yeah.
Now with the new rules and everything, you don't have to carry that much, but you still, a lot of the parts you have here is for putting another car together if needed.
So imagine I'm in 5th grade and I want your job. So you studied engineering. Where did you study that? How long did that take? And then what was your first job after you graduated?
So I did a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering.
Okay.
In the Tec de Monterrey in Mexico.
Okay.
So that was my bachelor's. I was always involved in fixing things.
Yeah.
As a kid, I was always curious about things and toys and trying to fix them and break them and all that. And I think from very early age, I thought I liked stuff, like fixing stuff.
Yeah.
And I always liked cars. Since I was little, who gave me toy cars.
Yeah.
And I got in love with one particular toy.
Yeah.
That was a Formula 1 race car.
Yeah.
And since then, I love racing.
So I was kind of looking about stuff about you online, and one of the things I read is you went to Charlotte, I think it was, with your CVs.
Right.
And you actually went to different race teams, and you that is so inspiring, right? We think you apply for a job and maybe you get it, maybe you don't hear back, and you just kind of move on. But you were really persistent about it. You said obviously you had the passion, and then you physically went there. What led to wanting to do that? And can you just speak about having that persistence and really going for and shooting for what you want to do?
It's kind of difficult because one is the passion that's driving you.
Yeah.
But also it's the needs.
Yeah.
Because back then, when I was in Mexico, what happened was that NASCAR Mexico lost the NASCAR license.
Okay.
So NASCAR disappeared in Mexico for about 2 years, but they didn't have a license. And I had a previous job that I left, so and I was like, what do I want to do, right? So I had the need to find a different job that I really wanted to do. I mean, I was still teaching, I was involved in the automotive industry, but it was like, man, I love racing. I don't know what's going to happen with racing in Mexico.
Yeah.
So what should I do? And just the need to continue doing what you like to do, but I want to do it at a different level. But I've done it all, right?
Yeah.
And it's what's next?
Yeah.
So it was funny because I told my wife I'm going to jump on a plane and look for opportunities. She said, you're crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of the guy that, now we have all this technology that help us, but it also limits us, right? So you can see people sending CVs and resumes to all these links and web pages and all that. Sometimes you just want to meet the guy.
Yeah.
Right? So to me it was well, I know this is my CV probably gonna end on someone's desk.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But if I go, and I remember I bought red folders from Staples.
Okay.
So I know a red folder is going to be noticed in the table.
Yeah.
So I was going to go into different shops, say, please make sure this goes into the right people's desk.
Yeah.
At least it's going to be on their way. At least they're going to open and see what's this.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. That's why I did it.
That's so inspiring. I think that's a perfect note to end it on. Shoot for your dreams, be a little different, and you could potentially be an engineer with a racing team. So thanks so much for kind of letting us come here and show us around, and really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you guys coming here, and I hope this inspires more people to do it.
Brad, thanks so much for willing to sit down with us and chat with us. We've chatted with a whole bunch of folks that work in NASCAR, STEM professionals, data folks, engineers, and now we get to chat with a driver. So tell me about, how you got into motorsports and then how you got into NASCAR.
Well, I've always loved motorsports. I kind of got the bug when I was a kid, and my parents, they understood it, but still, being a first-generation American on my dad's side. My dad's from Dominican Republic, my mother's from New York, but first-generation American, her mother's from Puerto Rico. And just in doing so, they kind of were like, oh, you kind of like doctor, lawyer kind of thing. It's like classic immigrant parent thing. But I always had the bug to go racing. So from then on, I knew that, okay, I had to work for it. So I learned a lot about mechanics, ended up karting around when I was 16, 17 years old with my own money. And in learning the mechanics side, it kind of got me an opportunity where I can work for a NASCAR team. So when I was about 21 or so, I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina to work in the industry. And a couple years later, and ended up meeting the right people, and the opportunities came about that I could drive, and here I am.
That's really, really cool. obviously in NASCAR there's lots of roles, and you alluded to some of those roles, engineers and data folks and whatnot. How important are those folks in order for you to do your job at in the best way possible?
Oh, it's huge. I think like depending on what team you want to align yourself with, like that comes with different importances, like whether it be like, you know, the crew chief here is really good and is very knowledgeable, or this engineer here is really good, and there's a good culture here of people that want to learn, and there's ideas being shared that's good. And I think the engineering side and the mechanic side of motorsport is what drives success. I think there's not going to be a really good driver in a bad car, and when you get the good car, it's because of the people.
Yeah. Another piece of tech that I'm really intrigued by is simulators. It seems like they've come a long way. Do you personally like get on simulators, and are they like fairly accurate to, like, for example, if we get on a COTA simulator, would it be pretty similar to you know, driving on the racetrack?
Yeah, like I think the technology now with a lot of the popular sims would be like R-Factor and R-Factor Pro, which is what the manufacturer sims use, or iRacing, which is kind of more of like a consumer-based, like free-for-all kind of simulator.
Yeah.
They laser scan all the tracks, laser scan the cars, they use like real data. I wouldn't say that they're super accurate, but they're now getting to the point, especially in the manufacturer sims, like they're way ahead with more parameters and all the small things, that they're really getting close to the real thing, to the point where like you get on the racetrack and every bump is the same, the way your throttle response is the same, like the way the car handles is the same, and the closer we get to that, especially with how limited practice we have, it's crazy.
Those kids are so excited.
Yeah, what'd you think?
It was amazing. It was, you know, seeing those kids meet their role models was awesome to see. And then one of the engineers, Jose, sharing that story of him being in between jobs, really wanting to get into NASCAR, literally going to Charlotte, North Carolina, putting his resumes in red folders and going to each team and getting his first job in NASCAR that way.
Yeah.
That's just inspiring. Like when someone says no, you figure out a way, you go the extra.
Being persistent.
Exactly. And for those kids to hear that, I think that's what this is all about.
Yeah, totally. And so do they have like a partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters? Will they be able to keep doing this?
They do, yeah. So every track they go to, they invite the local chapter, and they have about 30 to 50 kids there. They give them this VIP experience, and then obviously put STEM components into those experiences. The cool thing is they have Dr. Cooper, who heads up their STEM initiative. So it's not just like a rubber stamp. They have this person trying to develop a curriculum and make sure that the things that these kids are hearing allow them to follow these pathways into careers in NASCAR and in STEM.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
STEM isn't just something like boring in the classroom. Right. You can see how, like, you know, the engineering, the technology is all being used for fun things like NASCAR.
Yeah, and it's awesome to see an organization like NASCAR that's considered cool by most to be actually embracing that.
That's what I love about these segments that you do. It really gives light into the world of STEM and how STEM can be used in so many ways other than the ways that we often think of them being used in. I'm also always blown away at the access you get for these assignments. So cool.
The people you get to talk to.
I know. I'm super lucky, and half the time I'm like pinching myself. I'm like, how did I end up here? But I just embrace it and have fun with it.